Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for February 2025. So on February 23rd, we are all going to have a major shift in our mood, in our attitude, in our physical energy, in our motivation and inspiration. Why? Because Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger, is finally going direct after about 2 months of being retrograde. So this is what we've been waiting for. I do have a lot to unpack here. I am going to do a little bit of a review and definitely pay attention to the time frames that I'm going to be spitting at you. And of course, if you've been doing the work in the monthly energy guides, you can flip back into these particular time frames for a reference point and see your Mars retrograde story actually come to life. So first of all, we have to go back to October 4th. That is when Mars, the god of war, first entered into the pre-retrograde zone, meaning we were at 17 degrees of Cancer energy, and that is essentially when the energy started to dissipate and slow down. We continued through that Cancer energy. On December 6th, we actually went retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo energy. So again, from 17 degrees Cancer to 6 degrees Leo, take a look at your chart. This is the particular section of your life, section of the influence of this particular retrograde that again is piecing together your Mars retrograde story. Now, we are going to go direct here on February 23rd at 17 degrees in Cancer. That means that, again, Mars is going to wake up from his unconscious slumber, if you will, if you want to think of it like Mars getting drugged in a particular way where he had to kind of sit back and observe instead of being an active participant in life. This is why we've been in a lull. This is why we've been very uninspired. This is why, again, we have ants in our pants. We want to take action. We want to make moves. But of course, we haven't been given that green light go ahead. Now that Mars is going to go direct, the green light does come on, but it's a faded green light. We're going to need a little bit of time to kind of acclimate, if you will, to come back into our consciousness, be present, be aware, kind of review all that has transpired, taking us back to, again, October 4th. We have pivotal points in this retrograde story that, again, probably won't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to us until we get into May. Reason being, we're going to be in this post-retrograde shadow period until May 2nd. And of course, there's a lot going on. If you haven't listened to the 2025 year ahead overview, I'm going to recommend you do that. Even if you have taken a listen to it, go back for a re-listen. We have a lot of things popping off between now and May 2nd that is definitely going to help piece together why this particular retrograde was so important to us. And just considering the fact that, again, as Mars has been in this retrograde, we've had this opposition to the sun, which never feels good. That popped off January 15th. The majority of this retrograde, there was an opposition to Pluto because, of course, Pluto's sitting over there in the Aquarius energy. A lot of this retrograde was in the Leo energy that sits across the street from Mr. Pluto in that Aquarius energy. So we have the god of the underworld and the god of war pretty much sitting across the table this whole freaking time. And of course, with Mars kind of representing the hero journey and Pluto kind of representing the shadow work, the change, the transformation that we all have to go through in order to rise up and be the hero of our own stories, it's no wonder why we have been in a lull, why we have been, borderline depressed, why there has been this funk in the mood and the attitude of the collective over the last couple of months. But now that Mars is going to go direct, we are going to have to give him some time to, again, kind of wake up from this drunken slumber, to kind of put the pieces together, if you will, of where it is that he's been, what it is that he had to review, where it is that he had to break himself down and build himself up in a much better way. And I think we can all relate to having certain parts of self really be scrutinized, really be pressurized in order for us to, again, really collapse the old version of self, that old belief system, that old realm in reality. Because again, we're in the year of 9. This is the year that the old world falls permanently. where we get in preparation mode for this new world that we are very excited to jump into, that we are going to definitely go balls to the walls into, and realize that, guess what? We didn't do such a great job of wrapping up topics and themes, providing endings and closures to particular karmic cycles that, again, later on in the year, when we have some of these major heavy hitting planets creeping back into the particular signs and degrees that we're currently sitting at, we're going to realize that we have a little bit more work to do to prepare us for 2026. When we move into a year of one, when there is this initiation, beginning type of energy supporting us to anchor in some of the things that we're going to be experimenting and dabbling with here this year. So, of course, Mars's whole retrograde is a time of reassessment. A reassessment of our energy, of our efforts, of our goals, of our projects, of our emotions. We have to figure out, again, emotionally and intuitively speaking, what is driving us, what is motivating us, where it is that there is a spiritual calling to kind of break away from what once was and start kind of focusing in on what could now be, that we have a different version of self in power and in control. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic because, of course, going direct, yeah, that's a great thing. However, we're still in Cancer energy. Mars doesn't really appreciate being in Cancer energy because, again, he can't take forward action in the way that he would like. He's more in defense and protective mode. That being said, being in a water energy isn't the greatest place for Mr. Mars to be in. However, we do have to retrace our steps. And again, taking us all the way back to October, there's a lot to revisit. There's a lot to kind of restructure in our minds. There's a lot to revise as far as the plans that we had back in October, carrying us into November, carrying us into December. He went retrograde in that Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac. And before we could figure out what it is that we were actually passionate about, what we were motivated and inspired to pursue as far as new paths go, just when we realized what we wanted to do, again, we went retrograde. We had a lot of reanalyzation, a lot of reassessing to do, especially with the fuel that is going to kind of push us into this spark, fire, and flame that will be fueling us in this new path, in this new direction. And so it is going to take a little bit of time. We are going to need to exercise patience. And again, patience isn't a virtue that many of us were born with. We do have to kind of gain perspective on what it is that we're actually inspired to pursue, what we actually desire, what we want, how we're going to assert ourselves out in the world to get said wants, needs, and desires. And of course, we are going to be gifted with a lot of option and opportunity to take action and make moves. But again, a lot of those actions and moves are based off of what we're now ready to let go of, what we're ready to break away from, what we're ready to put behind us. We are in Pisces season. Mars being in this Cancer energy, a sister water sign to Pisces season, definitely going to bring up a lot of emotion, definitely going to download us with a lot of different visions on what our future could actually look like. And as we kind of ease ourselves back into consciousness and awareness of what it is that we actually want, need, and desire, we have to be very focused on what we want to build and create in respect to what we have to remove, what we have to disconnect and detach from, what we have to close the door upon. So there is going to be this realignment, recalibration, if you will, that will be taking place in the first couple of weeks of having Mars actually go direct. Of course, we're moving right into a new moon in Pisces the minute that we kind of start gaining our bearings. And of course, that's going to put a totally different level of surrender on us, of endings and closures on us. It's preparing us for, of course, moving into March. What happens March 1st? Venus, the feminine divine counterpart to Mars's masculine energy, Venus is going to go retrograde. And so again, we don't have very much time where all planets are, in a direct position, and especially where Mars, he just kind of is waking up. We're not going to get a whole hell of a lot of action, a whole hell of a lot of progress in a short window of time before, again, Venus goes retrograde, Mercury joins her, and of course, we're already feeling the effects of eclipse season. So there's definitely a lot going on. However, bottom line here, we all need to have the attitude of gratitude. that Mars is shifting into a direct position. We have to be very aware of where our energy is coming back, where we're going to put that time, energy, and attention, especially in the wrap-up series. What are we bold, brave, and courageous about? What are we bold, brave, and courageous now within ourselves, ready to tackle, to provide the endings and closures that, again, we were resisting in making back in October, even in November, even in December? We are in a better position now to see what it is that we have to remove, what we have to eliminate before we can start building towards something new.